Let's get into the details of those stories now. This was a guy with a mission to break jail, free up suspect held by police at a cell in a small community, armed with very dangerous weapons, a bread and hacksaw blade. They stormed the police station at night. Yes, a hacksaw blade hidden in bread. The operation was a success. One casualty, a policeman, and 7 inmates got their freedom. Sounds like some action movie showing at a cinema near you. It may sound so, by the way, but you'll be wrong if you thought so. It's rather how armed robbers staged the Kwabenya cell break. Chief Inspector Emmanuel Ashilevi was shot and killed. We'll be showing you some visuals of those suspects in the prison today. There they are in your screen at the moment. But today, those 12 suspects were arrested in connection with the incident, and they were brought to face justice in court. We have here a blow-by-blow account of the whole cell break plot and how it was executed. First, though, details of what happened in court. Out to them. 10 others, including Nancy Denta, the Kwabenya bread seller, and Prince Champong, aka Nana Owo, who we know now to be the spiritual father and mastermind of the whole attack, pleaded not guilty. Joseph Akabley was in court for us today, and he joins me in the studio now to tell us what the reaction of the public, those of course who were at the court, was, and then we get into the details of what happened in the courtroom. Joseph, it's good to see you. It's been a long day for you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's start with what people who came around were eager to find out. What were they saying?
It was a case of people wanting to see who these individuals are. I mean, if you're in a country and you don't know of this event that took place, I mean, you're certainly not in the country in a strict sense. So a lot of those who came, they were eager to try and identify the individuals, and they were asking questions of those who, with the pressmen who had come over. They were saying that, are these the individuals who committed that offense at Kwabenya, and the other questions have to do with who in particular shot them. So those were the kind of questions that those who came around.
So let's find out if we were able to address some of these questions perhaps in the courtroom. Take us to the courtroom, tell us how it all happened, unfolded.
So first, the charges against the individuals were read to them. The 12 individuals who are before the court, you have 3 of them were charged with escaping from lawful custody. That is 2 counts of that charge were put against them. What is interesting is that 2 of them pleaded guilty to those 2 counts put against them. In the legal procedure, once you go to court and you plead guilty, you are convicted on your own plea, and then the court reserves the right to sentence you if it so wishes to do at that point. But the judge deferred their sentence, even though he wrote on record that they have been convicted of the said offense. The third person, who was also in the custody of the police and broke far away from the cell, he pleaded not guilty. So it means that it will be a full trial. So we can take a look at the individuals. The first person is Prince Osei. Now, Prince Osei is someone who was in the custody of the police and was aided to escape. Right. So he was charged first with possessing firearm without lawful authority. Okay. Now that was put on hold because the judge felt that they need to seek some advice from the Attorney General before putting that charge against him. The other issue has to do with conspiracy to commit crime.
But hold on, before you go on, was there any explanation as to why the judge has to hold on to that particular charge?
The reason being that the nature of that offense is a bit of a high crime, and when it happens that way, you need some guidance from the AG's department as to whether, looking at the docket, they can even sustain that allegation in the first place or that charge in the first place. Right. So he asked them that because the practice has been that in times past, the police will charge the person and subsequently they have to go and amend the charge. So he said that, why don't you seek that advice now before we even begin?
So we don't have to go through the process of bringing a charge that has to be amended later on.
Exactly.
Very well.
Exactly. So the other one has to do with conspiracy to commit crime to escape from lawful custody, and that is what Prince also pleaded guilty to. Then escape from lawful custody, he also pleaded guilty to that count as well. So that is for Prince Owusu, the first accused person.
Owusu. Is there any way we'll be able to tell which of them is Prince Owusu in the visuals that we played previously?
Actually, the visuals we played is the first gentleman who comes out.
Okay, so let's see if we can roll back to that those particular visuals, and so we can point him out, so you know who we're dealing with now. We're talking about Prince. No, it's Prince Osei. Prince Osei.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to show us.
So that's
Prince
the lady.
That's the bread seller.
That is the fair guy is Kofi Seshi, and he is with Prince Owusu.
Kofi
Seshi is the one who shot Prince Osei. Kofi Seshi is the one who shot.
Kofi Seshi is the guy with the dreadlocks.
The dreadlocks who shot at the police officer.
Okay, so that is what the information we know at the moment, and we've just given you a few details about what happened in courts as far as Prince Osei, the guy in the black shirt, is about. Let's talk about Atakojo. Give us a few details about him.
So with regards to Atakojo, the charge that was put against him was very similar to that put against the first accused person. He was also charged with escaping from lawful custody, 2 counts of that, and he pleaded guilty as well. So he was also convicted on his plea of guilty, and so that was it for with regards to Atakojo. So conspiracy to commit crime to wit escape from lawful custody. So that is for Atakojo. So fugitive meaning he was one of those gentlemen who were in the police cells and were aided by the other individuals to escape. And the second one, escape from lawful custody, which he pleaded not guilty.
And whilst you're at it, may I find out whether or not they were those who escaped from lawful custody? Did they just escape, or were they aware? Are they part of the grand plan of escape, which ended in the taking the life of the police officer?
Those are details that will excite our listeners. Definitely, they actually partook in the plot. That is, some of them.
Okay.
In fact, they masterminded it. We'll get into those.
We'll get into those. But there's one more person, Kofi Dako. Kofi Dako. What we haven't done though is show Atakojo. Was he a man?
That is in that. They came out in that order. So once the visuals are rolling, they can connect that quickly.
Okay.
But
so Kofi Dako
with regards to Kofi Dako, he has to do with conspiracy to commit crime to wit escape from lawful custody. He pleaded not guilty, and escape from lawful custody. He also pleaded not guilty to that as well. So
was he not a part of those who escaped?
He was in custody. He escaped, but he disagrees that he escaped from lawful custody. So it has to be a full trial.
Interesting, interesting. So these are the 3 gentlemen we're talking about here. Now let's look at the suspects. Those other suspects who have been picked up. They were not in the cell.
Yes. So those are the 9 who have been charged with abetment to escape from lawful custody, which in simple terms means that they aided the 7, because you recall the police narrative was that they had 7 people in their custody and they escaped. So these 9 individuals. So Nancy Denta, she is the bread seller, the lady we saw in our shots leaving, heading to the courtroom. So she has also been charged as well with abatements to enable the guys escape from lawful custody. So they all pleaded not guilty.
All of these persons. So we have Nancy Denta, George Yeboah, Prince Champong, Edward Latte, Kofi Seshi, whom we saw, George Saba, Elvis Owusu, George Asante, Theophilus Banda. All of these people are being charged with abetment to escape from lawful custody, and they've all pleaded not guilty. Yeah. So it's going to be, like you say, a full trial, so they can explain why they think that they're not guilty under these circumstances. Interesting. Now let's talk about the grand plan, Joseph.
So we are told that the first accused person, he was in the police cell. We understand that he overheard 3 individuals who were also in the police cell plotting on how to escape. So once he heard them plan, he informed them of his intention to partake in that plot.
Okay.
So these 3 individuals managed to contact someone who brought them a mobile phone in the cells. So with that mobile phone, they started communicating with the other individuals outside the cells who were to aid them in their escape. Okay. We are told that the first plan was that they brought a hacksaw blade.
Okay.
This was
so
put in
whilst you talk about the hacksaw blade, I'm going to, let's call for that video now. Let's have a look at these people, the people we're talking about, so we can easily, relate them to the plan that we're describing. So we're basically talking about the plan that led to the death of the police officer, and which also allowed, or which also helped the inmates at the cell at the time to escape. So bread.
So they put the hacksaw blade in a bread and they handed it to the guys in the cells. So late in the night, when the police guys were asleep, they tried to use the blade to cut the padlock that locks the cell.
Okay.
So that is a hacksaw blade and a bread, of course. So
okay, so we have some visuals here that should help you appreciate what we're discussing here. Now that is a hacksaw blade, and this is a full loaf of bread. As far as the accounts that we're receiving is concerned, this hacksaw blade was placed in this kind of bread, sent to the prisoners. Now, how is it possible that the police officers who are at the police station at the time aren't able to notice that there was something fishy about the bread that was going to the inmates?
Those are the concerns that, I mean, will definitely be put into the police officers, because the procedure we understand is that whenever, for those who are engaged, who say they've taken food to persons who are in custody, we are told that they check the food, they open it up, they ensure that there's nothing within it before they allow it go over to that individual. Right. But in this case, it appears either there was a lapse of a sort, or maybe the one who did the checking didn't recognize that. But late in the night, they tried to use the hacksaw blade to cut the padlock, but they were unsuccessful on that night. So then they contacted the people again using the same mobile phone to tell them that our plot failed. So they asked them that they come over and aid them to escape from the cell. So on the D-Day, we are told that 2 of them approached the police officers who were stationed behind their desk. When they approached them, they did ask them that, I mean, they wanted to file a complaint. They said that someone owed them some amount of money and that person was refusing to pay. So they wanted to lodge that complaint, but the police told them that it's a civil matter, so they think they should rather take legal action against that individual. So just when they were about exiting, they signaled the other colleagues who were outside. They rushed in and started firing gunshots towards the police officers. We are told they shot the policeman who later lost his life. They shot him at the right buttocks. At that point, he started bleeding. Then they held hostage 3 officers who were in at the police station on the said day. They held them hostage, took the keys from them, opened the padlock, enabling all 7 individuals who were in custody to escape.
Wow. Sounds like a movie. Actually, it really does sound like
you don't normally hear such things happening.
No, you don't. You don't. But how did the bread seller get the phone into the cell?
So that is what is a bit confusing. When they read out the facts of the case to the court, they didn't connect directly to her. But with what we are picking from sources is the fact that she is someone who engages, she sells to them. So sometimes she has that kind of close contact with them in terms of relaying information sometimes. So that is what we know. But her lawyer also had some concerns. In fact, in open court, he tried to raise those concerns, but the point the judge made was that, I mean, those deal with the merits of the case. Once the person has pleaded not guilty, it means that the trial will be a full trial. So when the trial proper starts, you can raise all those objectives and raise all those issues. But with regards to what we know so far, it's just a case of her having close relationship with the guys and the belief by the police that she did aid them in their escape.
And with the police being aware that this lady has that kind of close contact with the inmates, was that not a bother? Did that come up in the discussion in court today?
Not at all. I mean, all what the prosecutors told, I mean, so their job in such circumstances to narrate to the court how they picked up these individuals and why they think they are connected to the crime. So with regards to breaching processes, all those issues are things that are questions that definitely the police, as the hierarchy, as an administration on its own, will need to provide answers to, because people are worried and wondering how someone is able to sneak a hacksaw blade into the cell in the first place, a mobile phone which they use to contact people. I mean, talk of movies, what we see in movies often are not is that they get a telephone, they make their calls, it's in a booth somewhere, but clearly...
And sometimes you don't even know where they get the phone from. If you're talking about a booth, it's usually in...
the jail.
Exactly.
But with regards to the counterback, that one even makes it a bit more easier for the police to monitor, because if you are in a counterback, and for those who visited the place when we engaged one of our colleagues, Maxwell Agbagba, he tells us that the counterback, like we call it, is very close to the cell. So it's a short distance such that you should be able to monitor whatever is going on in there. So there are real questions with regards to the procedure on that day and the procedure generally in most of our police stations across the country, for which we need some clarification on.
Interesting. At this point, we see them being, prepared to be taken away and everything. I guess that we've not perhaps been able to, okay, so we see some smiles on their faces as well, but would you be able to explain to us their demeanor generally?
It's the gentleman, the fair guy in the dreadlocks, the Kofi says he had some concerns when we were taking photographs of him. And he kept saying that, I'm not a criminal, why are you taking photographs of me? Those were his exact sentences that he stringed as he was being led into the courtroom and out of the courtroom. So that is a gentleman, the one in a dreadlocks.
Right, he is the one that's suspected to have killed the police officer.
Rightly so.
And he was also in jail.
Yes. No, he was one of the individuals who aided the gentleman to escape.
Oh, right. We know that there are 4 of them, 4 of the escapees who are still on the run. Was there any information about them?
The police actually asked, so that was for the very reason that they asked for more time to carry out the investigations, because out the 4 individuals, 3 of them were those who the first accused person had them plot this entire thing that we now know of was executed with such finesse, if you have to put it that way. So they are saying that they told the court that they are still carrying out investigations with the hope of being able to apprehend them. In fact, they said all those, the 12 individuals, they pick them up from different parts locations of the country, some central, some Volta region. In fact, they said the first accused person handed money to some of them to move out of the area they were in, so they moved elsewhere, and that was how come the police people, it took them some time to be able to pick them up, even though for most people it's more or less like record time.
It is record time for maybe everyone, I must say. But anyway, we do know about one gentleman who was also picked up. We understand that he's connected to a lot of criminal activities in the country. Who our sources are calling Nana Owo. Do we have any further information on him? We understand that a whole lot of other things were found at his residence or his hideout.
Quite a number of firearms, we are told. In fact, what we understand is that he's more or less someone who acts as a spiritual father for the other accused persons. He's someone, we are told, that a lot of the crime that takes place in the country, he has an idea about that, either in the plotting or in assisting the people get the arms they require to execute the crime. So that is what we know about him for now.
Right, indeed. Joseph, I'll say a very big thanks to you. When do they go back to court? On
February 13th. So first we have the sentence for the 2 individuals will be given, after which the substantive case regarding all the other 9 individuals plus the 10th person who pleaded not guilty to the crime of escaping from lawful custody will be heard.
Okay, there's a whole lot of information to digest, I must say. Joseph, thank you once again. Joseph Akabley has been in courts and brought us those visuals and brought us the story as well, including the grand plan that was meant to help these persons in the cells to escape, which also ended up in the death of one police officer, Inspector Ashlevi. May his soul rest in peace.